Quiet teacher's disturbing secret. Hidden room reveals shocking decade-old murder. What if the person you trusted most with your children was hiding a decade-old murder behind their gentle smile? For over 20 years, Mr. Elijah Langston walked through the halls of Willow Creek High School with his worn leather briefcase, greeting students with kind eyes and a reassuring nod. Parents entrusted their children to him without hesitation. Students confided in him. The community revered him. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind the eyes of those we trust completely? The teachers who shape young minds, the neighbors who wave from across the street, the friends who know your daily routines. On a crisp autumn morning in Willow Creek, contractors renovating Elijah Langston's modest home removed a section of basement wall to find something that would shake the foundation of the entire community. A hidden room sealed away from curious eyes for over a decade. Inside, the flickering light revealed a blood-stained tarp, a rusted shovel, and walls covered with photographs of a young woman, a former student named Naomi Carter who had vanished without a trace 12 years earlier. The quiet teacher with perfect attendance and thoughtful advice had been harboring the ultimate secret. Behind the carefully constructed walls of normalcy, Mr. Langston had created a shrine to his obsession, a young woman whose bright future he had violently extinguished. What drives a respected teacher to commit such a horrific act and live normally for years after? How does someone teach lessons about morality and history while hiding evidence of murder mere feet below their living room floor? Today, we'll explore how Elijah Langston's calculated deception fooled an entire town, the psychological patterns that transformed admiration into deadly obsession, and the crucial warning signs that went unnoticed until it was too late. If you believe that understanding darkness helps protect yourself and those you love, hit that like button and subscribe now. This channel brings you true crime stories that reveal the shadows hiding in plain sight, because awareness is your strongest defense against becoming a victim. In the next 20 minutes, you'll witness how a town's most trusted educator became its most shocking criminal, and learn the vital lesson that sometimes the monsters we fear aren't hiding in alleys or forests. They're grading papers, attending parent-teacher conferences, and living quietly next door. The disturbing truth about Mr. Langston begins now. In Willow Creek, Mr. Elijah Langston wasn't just a teacher. He was an institution. For 2 decades, his 7:15 a.m. arrival at school was so reliable that secretaries joked they could set their watches by the sound of his polished Oxford shoes clicking down the hallway. "I always knew Mr. Langston truly cared," recalls former student Jessica Wheeler, now 32. "When my father passed during junior year, he stayed after school every Tuesday to help me catch up. He brought me history books that showed how people throughout time had overcome grief. I thought he understood pain in a way most adults didn't." His classroom, room 237, became a sanctuary of order and inspiration. Meticulously arranged historical maps lined mint green walls. Carefully selected quotations about truth and justice framed the chalkboard, and his desk remained impossibly neat despite the chaos of high school life surrounding it. The community embraced him completely. At Mabel's Diner, his usual booth near the window was often reserved without asking. He ordered the same breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee, and left precisely 15% tips, written to the penny. The annual Teacher of the Year award gathered dust on his mantle. He'd won it 5 times, but modestly kept only the first displayed. He listened when others just heard, explains Principal Margaret Donovan. Parents requested him specifically for troubled students. He had this gift for reaching teenagers who had given up on themselves. His colleagues described his teaching style as methodical yet passionate. He specialized in making history feel immediate, often saying, "To understand the past is to protect your future." Students consistently scored higher on standardized tests after passing through his classroom. On weekends, neighbors would see him tending his modest garden, meticulously pruning roses that he often brought to elderly residents at Willow Creek Retirement Home. He volunteered at the library's literacy program and donated anonymously to the school's scholarship fund. There was something almost too perfect about him, admits Officer James Kelly, who coached the school's basketball team. No vices, no scandals, no financial troubles. In 20 years, not even a parking ticket. "I remember thinking nobody's that clean." Former student Marcus Reed, now Detective Reed, remembered something unusual. He kept perfect boundaries with everyone. If you tried to learn anything personal about him, he'd redirect so smoothly you wouldn't notice. I once asked about family photos on his desk. He had none. He changed the subject to my college applications, so naturally I forgot I'd asked. What students didn't see: the locked desk drawer containing newspaper clippings about missing persons cases, the way his eyes lingered too long on certain female students, how he volunteered for every overnight field trip but kept to himself during staff social events. Each morning, Elijah Langston put on more than just his tweed jacket with leather elbow patches. He assembled a complete persona, crafted over years and worn with such consistency that not even those closest to him could detect the careful performance beneath the warm smiles and thoughtful nods. The history teacher had mastered his greatest lesson. People see what they expect to see. And in Willow Creek, everyone expected to see only good in Mr. Langston. Willow Creek's Historical Preservation Committee had selected 12 homes for their annual renovation grant. Elijah Langston's ivy-covered house, built in 1937 and largely unchanged since, was 8th on the list. The goal: reinforcing aging foundations and updating electrical systems while maintaining historical integrity. The contractors arrived at 8:30 a.m. on October 12th. By 11:45 a.m., they had changed the course of a 12-year-old murder investigation. "We were checking for structural weaknesses in the basement walls," explained head contractor Dale Mercer. "I tapped section by section with a rubber mallet, listening for hollow spots that might indicate deterioration. Near the northeast corner, beside an old coal chute, Mercer heard it, a distinctly hollow sound that didn't match the surrounding concrete. His team removed a section of drywall to find a second layer of bricks, newer than the original foundation. It looked like amateur masonry," Mercer recalled. "Decent work, but definitely not original to the house. The mortar color was off." After discovering metal hinges embedded in the brickwork, the team called Langston, who was teaching his third period AP history class. His response: "It's probably just an old storage area," seemed casual enough, though he insisted on being present when they opened it. When Langston arrived home during lunch break, his demeanor shifted subtly. He suggested postponing further exploration until the weekend. When Mercer mentioned potential code violations, Langston reluctantly agreed to proceed. The makeshift door swung inward with a scrape of brick against concrete, revealing a space approximately 8 feet by 6 feet. A single bulb hung from exposed wiring in the ceiling, activated by a pull chain just inside the entrance. "The smell hit us first," Mercer said. "Mustiness mixed with something chemical, like old cleaning products." The room contained methodically arranged items: a metal folding chair facing the back wall, a wooden desk with notebook and pen placed perfectly parallel to its edge and covering most of the floor, a blue tarp with large, dark stains that everyone present immediately recognized as blood. Against the left wall leaned a garden shovel, its metal edge showing specks of rust and soil. But what captured immediate attention were the photographs covering the back wall. Dozens of them, arranged chronologically like a timeline. They showed a young woman with copper-colored hair and bright eyes that seemed to dim in later images. The early photos captured her laughing on campus grounds and studying in what appeared to be a library. In later photos, her expressions grew increasingly distressed. The final images showed her looking directly at the camera with what could only be described as terror. Detective Marcus Reed arrived 20 minutes after Mercer's 911 call. A Willow Creek native who had returned after police training in Chicago. Reed had been 13 when Naomi Carter disappeared. He had witnessed how her case had haunted the town, including his father, one of the original investigating officers. "I recognized her immediately," Reed said. "Naomi Carter's face was on flyers all over town when I was a kid. Those missing person posters stayed up for years." Reed secured the scene and called for forensic support. Langston, whose complexion had gone ashen, quietly asked if he could return to school to finish teaching my classes. Reed denied this request and began preliminary questioning in Langston's kitchen, deliberately positioning him away from the basement door. Initial evidence suggested the room had been regularly accessed and maintained. A logbook on the desk contained dates and cryptic notations spanning 12 years. Dust patterns indicated frequent visits, but what they found next would change everything. Hidden beneath the wooden desk drawer was a small velvet pouch. Inside, a delicate silver bracelet engraved with Naomi and a folded note with a chilling message: "Forever mine in this life and beyond." Naomi Carter lived with bright urgency. At 23, the The anthropology major filled her planner with ambitious goals: fieldwork in South America, a PhD by 28, and eventually a position at the Natural History Museum in New York. Her professors at Willow Creek Community College described her as intellectually fearless and destined for academic distinction. She could walk into a room and everyone would notice, remembered her roommate, Tara Michaels, not because she was loud, but because she radiated this intense curiosity about everything and everyone. She asked questions no one else thought to ask. Standing 5'4", with copper hair often secured by colorful pins rather than proper clips, Naomi collected vintage postcards, spoke conversational Portuguese, and volunteered weekends at the local archaeological dig site where she gave tours to elementary school children. "The last time I saw my daughter, she was rushing out with a stack of library books," her mother Ellen Carter recalled, touching the turquoise necklace Naomi had given her for Mother's Day. She said she was meeting someone who could help with her thesis research. "She never told me who." Security cameras captured Naomi leaving the Willow Creek Library at 7:42 p.m. on April 18th, 12 years ago. At 8:15 p.m., she entered Mabel's diner alone, ordered coffee, and appeared to review notes. The waitress remembered her making several calls that went unanswered. At 9:37 p.m., Naomi received a text message that made her immediately gather her belongings. She left cash on the table and exited quickly. That was the last confirmed sighting of Naomi Carter. The initial investigation followed standard protocols. Officers interviewed family, friends, and faculty. They tracked her cell phone to a tower near the college before the signal disappeared. Her bank accounts showed no activity after that night. Her passport remained in her desk drawer. Several leads emerged. A campus security guard reported seeing her walking toward the history building around 10 p.m. 3 students mentioned a heated exchange between Naomi and an unidentified faculty member weeks before her disappearance. Her research notes referenced interviews with Yale about local historical sites. "We questioned every male faculty member with those initials," explained retired Sheriff Douglas Weathers, including Elijah Langston, who provided a solid alibi. Dinner with the school principal and her husband that evening until 11 p.m. Without physical evidence connecting anyone to her disappearance, the case gradually cooled. By the 1-year mark, the dedicated task force had disbanded, leaving only a single detective reviewing tips that grew increasingly sparse. The community's response proved extraordinary. For months, hundreds of volunteers searched wooded areas and abandoned buildings. Students organized vigils and maintained a memorial scholarship. Local businesses displayed posters with Naomi's photograph for years afterward. The annual Find Naomi charity walk still draws participants who never knew her personally. Now, the photographs found in Langston's hidden room tell the horrifying progression that answers 12 years of questions. The earliest images show Naomi smiling, unaware she was being photographed through windows or across campus grounds. Middle period photos reveal her in what appears to be Langston's basement, confused then frightened. The final images capture a transformation no one should ever witness. A vibrant young woman diminished to hollow eyes and trembling hands. What exactly happened during those final days? What did Langston's journal entries reveal about his interactions with Naomi? Comment below with your theories about the relationship between teacher and student that led to this tragedy. Could someone have noticed warning signs earlier? Share your thoughts, and remember to like this video to help others learn from this devastating case. Forensic psychologists analyzing Elijah Langston's journals identified a mind fractured between meticulous control and consuming fixation. His writing, spanning 16 leather-bound volumes, revealed a psychological progression that experts now use in case studies of dangerous obsession. His handwriting tells its own story, noted Dr. Vanessa Harding, forensic psychologist assigned to the case. Early entries show precise, measured penmanship. As his fixation intensified, the writing becomes pressed harder into the page, with certain words, particularly mine and destiny, carved so deeply they tore through multiple sheets. The journals documented first contact. Naomi had enrolled in Langston's local history elective while researching indigenous settlements for her anthropology thesis. Her questions challenged his lectures, igniting what he initially described as intellectual admiration. January 12th. She stayed after class again today. 3rd time this week. Her questions reveal a mind unlike the others. She sees connections they miss. stubbornness. When she speaks, the classroom transforms. I find myself preparing lessons specifically to provoke her insights. Within weeks, admiration warped into fixation. He began documenting her schedule, noting which coffee shop she frequented between classes, which library chorale she preferred, even the songs she hummed while reviewing notes. February 28th, observed in, at Riverside Cafe from 3:15 to 4:40. She wears her concentration like others wear jewelry. It adorns her completely. When she tucked her hair behind her ear, 3x today, I felt physically affected. She belongs in my world, not wasting herself on these ordinary people. By March, his entry showed classic delusional thinking. Interactions that others would interpret as routine academic exchanges became, in Langston's mind, evidence of profound connection. March 17th, in, asked about local historical records today. Our hands touched as I passed the archive catalog. She held eye contact for 2.7 seconds. She feels her connection growing. I've begun preparations. She'll need somewhere safe when she finally understands what we mean to each other. The hidden room construction began during spring break. Property records showed Langston hired contractors for basement repairs, but completed the concealed room himself. Home improvement store receipts showed purchases of soundproofing materials, specialized locks, and the blue tarp later found stained with Naomi's blood. The room represents classic trophy collection behavior, explained Dr. Harding. It functioned as both preparation for his intended victim and as a shrine to his obsession. The chronological arrangement of photographs shows his need to document his perceived relationship with Naomi, a relationship that existed only in his mind. Publicly, Langston maintained his carefully constructed persona. Colleagues noted no behavioral changes. He continued hosting faculty meetings, submitted grades on time, and even served on a student wellness committee. This compartmentalization, what psychologists call doubling, allowed him to separate his teaching identity from his predatory reality. The journals detailed how Langston manufactured opportunities to interact with Naomi, offering to assist with research that would give him private access to her. He documented her increasing discomfort as his interest became apparent. April 2nd, in, declined my offer to review her thesis draft tonight. Claims she's too busy. This pattern of resistance must end. She doesn't yet recognize what fate has designed for us. I've prepared everything. Soon she'll understand we're inevitable. The most disturbing entries detailed his rationalization process as fixation escalated toward violence. His writing shifted from future fantasy to darker determination. April 15th, in, requested a different faculty advisor today. Claimed my approach makes her uncomfortable. She's fighting our connection. They always resist at first, believing they have choice in matters of destiny. She'll see clearly once we're alone. The final entries revealed Langston's complete break from reality. He described texting Naomi from a borrowed phone, claiming to have historical documents crucial for her research. He detailed preparing the basement room with books he knew would interest her. April 18th. Tonight, everything changes. The space is ready for her. I've selected music she'll appreciate. When she arrives, she'll finally see how perfectly I understand her. She believes she's coming for research materials. She'll stay because she'll finally recognize what I've always known. She belongs with me forever. Human intelligence analysts noted one chilling pattern. Throughout the 16 journals, Langston never once used Naomi's name. She was always she or her and reduced from person to possession long before she physically entered his deadly orbit. The forensic team that descended on Elijah Langston's basement operated with methodical precision. They documented 437 distinct items within the hidden room, each potentially connecting the respected teacher to Naomi Carter's disappearance. The blood evidence told us everything, explained forensic technician Sophia Martinez. The tarp contained large stains consistent with catastrophic blood loss. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Naomi Carter with 99.997% certainty. Luminol testing revealed blood spatter patterns on the walls that had been painted over but remained detectable under specialized lighting. The spatter indicated multiple blunt force impacts, consistent with the rusted hammer found wrapped in cloth beneath the desk. Most damning was what lay beneath the concrete floor. Ground-penetrating radar identified a disturbance measuring approximately 2 feet by 6 feet, dimensions matching a hastily excavated grave. When technicians removed the concrete section, they discovered decomposed human remains. The body had been temporarily buried there, Detective Reed explained. Forensic evidence suggests she remained there approximately 72 hours before being moved. Soil samples from the shovel matched 3 potential locations within a 50-mile radius. Throughout initial questioning, Langston maintained remarkable composure. Seated in interview room B at the Willow Creek Police Department, he answered questions with the same measured cadence he used when explaining historical events to students. "Understand how this looks," he stated calmly in the first recorded interview. "But that room was there when I purchased the house. I use it for storage. I cannot explain the blood or photographs." For 26 hours, Langston denied everything with unwavering confidence. He requested no attorney. He accepted coffee, but consumed none. His only visible reaction came when Detective Reed placed Naomi's recovered bracelet on the table between them. His right eye twitched, Reed recalled, just once. Then he asked if he could use the restroom. The breakdown began during hour 27. Forensic technicians had discovered a hidden panel in Langston's bedroom closet containing additional photographs of Naomi, images taken inside his home while she was clearly unconscious. When confronted with these photos, Langston's carefully constructed facade began to crack. His posture changed first, said Dr. Reginald Thompson, forensic psychiatrist observing the interrogation. He physically folded inward, shoulders collapsing as if the weight of pretending had suddenly become unbearable. The confession emerged in fragments, punctuated by periods of disassociation where Langston referred to himself in third person. She was special, different. She understood history's patterns in ways others couldn't. She belonged to my world, but then she pulled away. She requested another advisor. She rejected our connection. According to his testimony, Langston lured Naomi to his home with promises of rare historical documents essential for her thesis. When she arrived, he offered tea laced with sedatives. Upon regaining consciousness in the basement room, Naomi attempted to escape. He didn't plan to kill her, explained Dr. Thompson. In his distorted thinking, he believed she would recognize their special connection once isolated together. When she instead showed terror and fought to leave, it shattered his fantasy. Violence erupted from that cognitive dissonance. The murder itself was brutally straightforward. When Naomi attempted to flee, Langston struck her repeatedly with a hammer. He then meticulously cleaned the scene, buried her temporarily beneath his basement floor, and 3 days later relocated her body to a remote wooded area 50 miles north of Willow Creek. The most disturbing aspect emerged when Detective Reed asked why Langston had created the hidden room and preserved evidence that would eventually implicate him. The reason he gave for killing her will chill you to the bone. "I needed a place where she would always stay with me," Langston explained, his voice suddenly clear and rational. "Even after moving her body, part of her essence remained there. I could sit in that room and feel her presence. For 12 years, I've spent every Sunday evening in that room, grading papers in her company. I wasn't hiding evidence. I was preserving our relationship." News of Elijah Langston's arrest spread through Willow Creek with devastating speed. Parents gathered in stunned clusters outside the police station, many clutching their children closer as details emerged. The school board called an emergency meeting that lasted until 3 a.m., struggling to comprehend how their most trusted teacher had concealed such darkness. "My daughter had him for 4 years," said Catherine Blakely, mother of 2 Willow Creek High graduates. "He wrote her college recommendation letters. He came to her graduation party. To think of his hands touching her diploma now makes me physically ill." Former students experienced a particularly profound sense of betrayal. Many reported nightmares, anxiety, and intense questioning of their memories. "I stayed after school with him dozens of times for history club," explained Thomas Reynolds, now 27. "He knew things about my family, my hopes, my fears, things I trusted him with. Now I question every interaction, wondering if I missed warning signs or if I was ever in danger myself." The community transformed its shock into action. Within days, a memorial garden broke ground near the library where Naomi was last seen. Counseling services opened their doors without charge to anyone affected. Local churches and community centers hosted forums on predatory behavior and warning signs. On the 1-month anniversary of Langston's arrest, over 2,000 residents gathered for a candlelight vigil that illuminated the town square. Naomi's mother addressed the crowd, her voice steady despite her grief. "My daughter saw the good in everyone, even when it wasn't there," she said. "Don't let this man steal your ability to trust. Instead, learn from this tragedy. Pay attention, ask questions, protect each other." For Detective Marcus Reed, the case resonated on multiple levels. As both a former student of Langston's and the lead investigator, his perspective bridged personal and professional worlds. "I sat in his classroom learning about historical figures who abused power while he was doing exactly that," Reed reflected. "The most frightening aspect isn't that monsters exist. It's that they excel at appearing completely normal. Langston fooled an entire community not by hiding, but by becoming exactly who he wanted him to be." Willow Creek changed visibly in the aftermath. Background checks became more thorough. Security cameras appeared in previously unmonitored areas. Parents began attending school functions in record numbers. What was once a community defined by its openness transformed into one defined by its vigilance. If this story has affected you, please share with others who need to hear this warning. The most dangerous predators aren't hiding in shadows. They're standing in plain sight, cultivating trust and respect while concealing their true nature. One share could help someone recognize the warning signs that Willow Creek missed for 20 years. The state versus Elijah Langston trial began 11 months after the discovery of the hidden room. The courthouse, typically quiet in Willow Creek, required additional security as hundreds gathered daily, seeking answers and closure. Prosecutors presented a methodical case built on physical evidence and Langston's own words. His journals, admitted as evidence despite defense objections, provided the timeline and motive. Forensic analysts testified about blood evidence, DNA confirmation, and the tools used in both the murder and subsequent concealment. Former colleagues took the stand, many visibly struggling to reconcile the man they knew with the evidence before them. Principal Donovan testified through tears about recommending Langston for Teacher of the Year just weeks before his arrest. The defense strategy collapsed when they attempted to suggest mental illness, explained legal analyst Catherine Reynolds. The journals demonstrated clear awareness of right and wrong, extensive planning, and deliberate efforts to hide evidence, all contradicting claims of diminished capacity. On day 14, Naomi's family delivered impact statements. Her father, a retired military officer who had maintained rigid composure throughout the proceedings, broke down describing the birthdays, holidays, and milestones stolen from his daughter. Her mother addressed Langston directly. "You didn't just take Naomi's life. You took her voice, her dreams, her future children. You took our family's joy. You took a brilliant mind from the world. And for 12 years, you took our right to properly mourn her while you sat in your shrine of horrors, pretending to be a man of virtue." The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning with guilty verdicts on all counts: first-degree murder, kidnapping, and evidence tampering. Judge Harriet Monroe sentenced Langston to life imprisonment without possibility of parole, stating, "Your classroom inspired hundreds while your basement revealed your true character. Both spaces reflect choices you made deliberately." Throughout sentencing, Langston maintained the same composed expression he'd shown students for decades. Only when officers led him away did witnesses notice his lips moving in what appeared to be conversation with someone no one else could see. Dr. Melissa Ramirez, head of behavioral analysis for the State Bureau of Investigation, published a comprehensive assessment of Langston's psychology that became required reading in criminal justice programs nationwide. "What makes this case particularly disturbing is Langston's exceptional compartmentalization," she wrote. "He didn't merely hide his crimes. He constructed an entirely separate identity that functioned flawlessly in society. His ability to maintain this division for 12 years demonstrates an unusual psychological profile, combining obsessive attachment, objectification, and complete moral disengagement." Willow Creek transformed its approach to mental health in the aftermath. The school board implemented mandatory psychological screening for all staff. The community college established the Naomi Carter Memorial Scholarship for students pursuing psychology and criminal justice. Local therapists offered free workshops on recognizing concerning behavioral patterns. The town council voted unanimously to purchase and demolish Langston's house, unable to imagine anyone living there after what was discovered. In its place now stands Carter Memorial Garden, a peaceful space with flowing water, nature, native plants, and stone benches inscribed with quotes about truth, justice, and remembrance. At the garden's center, a bronze statue depicts a young woman reading, her face turned upward toward the future she never experienced. The plaque bears not only Naomi's name, but a message from her journal, found among her possessions. Understanding the past helps us navigate the present, but should never prevent us from embracing tomorrow. The case of Elijah Langston forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The line separating ordinary people from those who commit terrible acts isn't as clear as we might wish. Throughout human history, communities have been shocked to discover darkness hiding behind familiar faces: the neighbor, the friend, the trusted teacher. What makes this case particularly instructive, notes criminal psychologist Dr. Helena Walsh, is how it demonstrates that dangerous individuals rarely match our mental image of monsters. They often appear extraordinarily normal, even exemplary. Analyzing the case reveals several warning signs that went unnoticed for years. First, Langston's perfect persona lacked authenticity. His life appeared meticulously curated, too tidy, too consistent. Genuinely well-adjusted people show variations in mood, occasional mistakes, and natural fluctuations in their routines. Second, his boundaries were rigid and one-sided. While he collected personal information about students and colleagues, he revealed almost nothing about himself. This information imbalance created power differentials he could exploit. Third, his interest in certain students crossed from mentorship into fixation. Former colleagues now recall his tendency to offer special help to specific students, creating isolated situations that removed normal oversight. Fourth, his home functioned as a fortress rather than a living space. Neighbors were never invited inside. Renovations were handled personally, and he maintained unusual control over his property. To protect ourselves and loved ones, experts recommend several practical approaches. Trust pattern recognition. Your brain processes countless subtle cues before conscious awareness catches up. If someone makes you uncomfortable despite logical reasons to trust them, honor that feeling. Maintain healthy skepticism about perfect personas. Well-adjusted people display authentic range in their behavior and emotions. Those who never show cracks in their carefully constructed image deserve additional scrutiny. Verify claims independently. Had anyone checked Langston's background thoroughly, beyond standard employment screening, inconsistencies would have emerged in his personal history. Report boundary violations promptly. Small infractions often precede larger ones. When someone tests conventional limits without consequences, they typically progress to more significant violations. Watch for isolation tactics. Predatory individuals systematically separate potential victims from protective networks. Be wary of anyone who consistently seeks one-on-one interactions while discouraging group involvement. Perhaps most importantly, break the culture of silence. Communities that openly discuss concerns create environments where predatory behavior becomes more difficult to conceal. Naomi Carter's legacy extends beyond the garden bearing her name. The psychology curriculum now taught in Willow Creek schools includes age-appropriate lessons on recognizing manipulation and honoring intuition. The police department has revised its missing persons protocols. Mental health resources have expanded throughout the county. In her final anthropology paper, found incomplete on her laptop, Naomi wrote, "Throughout human history, communities survive trauma by transforming painful knowledge into protective wisdom. The lesson outlasts the teacher. Her insight proved prophetic. The lessons from her tragic story now protect countless others." The Naomi Carter Alert System, adopted by 12 states, creates rapid response protocols for missing young adults who fall outside traditional Amber Alert criteria. If you found value in Naomi's story and the lessons it contains, subscribe now for more true crime narratives that provide crucial insights into human behavior. Each episode examines cases that offer practical wisdom for navigating an often complicated world. In our next video, we will explore how a routine traffic stop revealed a decade-long financial scheme that targeted elderly victims across 5 states, and the surprising weakness that finally exposed the operation. The tools that brought down this predator are ones you can use to protect your own family security. Remember, awareness is your strongest defense. Knowledge, once gained, becomes protection not just for yourself, but for everyone around you.